Hello, everyone, and welcome to Master English, the podcast that helps you level up your English skills one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Emma, and today we're diving into a fun yet sometimes confusing part of English, idioms and expressions. These are phrases that might leave you scratching your head if you take them literally, but they're key to sounding more natural in English. To help us unravel the mystery behind these idioms, I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Natalia. She's a language enthusiast and educator with years of experience teaching English around the world. Natalia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Emma. It's great to be here.
We're so happy to have you. So let's dive right in. Idioms and expressions are used constantly in English, but for non-native speakers, they can be pretty tricky, right?
Oh, absolutely. Idioms don't follow the usual rules of language. If you take them literally, they often don't make sense. But they are everywhere in everyday conversations, so it's really important to understand them if you want to sound more fluent.
Exactly. Now, Natalia, could you give us a quick definition of what an idiom is for our listeners who might not be familiar?
Of course. An idiom is a phrase or expression where the meaning isn't directly tied to the individual words. For example, if I say it's raining cats and dogs, I don't mean animals are falling from the sky. It just means it's raining very heavily.
Perfect example. And that's a great one to start with. I think most learners come across raining cats and dogs at some point, but there are so many more idioms that people might not be aware of. Let's break a few down. How about to break the ice?
Break the ice is a great one. So, this idiom means to make people feel more comfortable in a social situation, especially when they're meeting for the first time. It's like when you're at a party and things feel a little awkward at first, but someone cracks a joke or starts a conversation and suddenly everyone feels more relaxed.
That's a fun one, and it's so useful for social situations. Here's another I hear a lot: to hit the nail on the head. What's going on there?
Yes, hit the nail on the head means to describe exactly what's causing a problem or to do something exactly right. Imagine trying to hammer a nail into the wall. You need to hit it directly on the head of the nail for it to go in. In conversation, it means someone has said or done exactly what was needed.
I love that one. It's such a clear image, right? Okay, let's do one more before we take a quick break. How about under the weather?
Under the weather is another common one, and it means feeling sick or unwell. It has nothing to do with the actual weather, but if you hear someone say, "I'm feeling a bit under the weather," they're probably not feeling great that day.
Great breakdown, Natalia. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some idioms that have evolved with modern times. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Master English. I'm here with Natalia, and we've been talking about some classic English idioms. Now, Natalia, let's talk about how idioms evolve. In our digital age, are there any idioms that have taken on new meanings or that have been created recently?
Yes, language is always evolving, and idioms are no exception. A good example is the expression to go viral. 20 years ago, if something was viral, it meant related to a virus. Now, in the age of social media, going viral means that something, like a video or post, has been shared and viewed by millions of people very quickly.
That's such a good point, and it shows how technology is influencing the way we speak. What about idioms related to work or business? I know there are tons of expressions people use in the office that might sound strange at first.
Oh, definitely. Take thinking outside the box, for instance. It means to think creatively, to come up with ideas that aren't traditional or obvious. Another one you'll hear a lot is to touch base. This means to connect or check in with someone, especially in a professional setting.
Those are both really useful in a business context, but I imagine they might be confusing if someone's hearing them for the first time. Thinking outside the box, I remember being puzzled by that one when I first heard it. So, how can learners get more comfortable with idioms?
My best advice is to start by listening for idioms in conversations or in the media, like TV shows, podcasts, or news reports. Once you notice them, look up what they mean. And don't be afraid to ask native speakers. Idioms are often culturally specific, so getting clarification from someone who uses them regularly can be really helpful.
Great tips, Natalia. It's true. Understanding idioms can feel like a real achievement for learners, and it definitely makes you sound more like a native speaker. Before we wrap up, do you have any final idioms you think our listeners should know?
One that's very useful is the ball is in your court. It means it's your turn to take action or make a decision, usually after someone else has done their part. It's often used in negotiations or discussions, like when you've proposed something and now you're waiting for the other person to respond.
Yes, that's a great one to end on. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Natalia. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot about how to make sense of English idioms and expressions.
Thank you, Emma. It was a pleasure to be here.
And that wraps up today's episode of Master English. I hope you've enjoyed learning about idioms and expressions as much as I have. Remember, practice makes perfect, and the more you expose yourself to these phrases, the easier they'll become. Don't forget to subscribe to Master English on YouTube and follow us on social media for more tips and episodes. Until next time, keep practicing and mastering your English. I'm Emma, and I'll see you in the next episode.